This is the GEWA G9 drum module. It's the flagship we are presenting here at the Frankfurt Musikmesse show. And we're presenting it because it has a lot of features that go beyond what you know as digital drum. When it starts in more or less performance mode. This is all you need for playing. So provided you have done all your adjustments, this is everything, the place to pull everything you need for playing, right? So you can change your kit by swiping, just tapping on it, open a browser. Also, a number pad is available if you know what your favorite kit is. Then you have capabilities of detecting when you do a rim shot or a rim click. You can set the threshold. If you choose X Fade, you can set the threshold when it turns from a rim click into a rim shot. So if you're very hard right now, you trigger a rim shot, and if you have soft, you will get a click. There's a mixer function available with groupings, so you can move all sliders at a time or individually. And when you're happy, you can move them still all at a time. So it's probably the most interesting features here. Then we have a song player next, which allows you to play songs as you would do with a normal player. So this is pretty basic. It's also driven by a browser. You have an internal drive to store files on, or your USB stick, and you have filters to select. When you play, you can loop a certain section. Works with any MP3 WAV file. So it just takes the snippets you want. You just press A, and once again for B, and then it loops the sections you have. Quick record allows you to record yourself while playing with the song, with a click, everything. And then it throws it on a USB stick, and you can call it up as a quick record file, it's called then. We are planning to being able to rename that file, but for now it just gives you a quick record, 1, 2, 3 numbers in. The cool feature here is varispeed function, and maybe we should test this with a microphone. So this is a function that slows down and speeds up your song, but without changing the pitch. So it just stretches the song and does not go up in pitch or down. And of course the volume. So that's real quick the song player. Next is the metronome. Also various ways to access the speed. You have all these hardware dials for most important functions. You can change the dial here, which says metronome. Alternatively, you have always a software dial with a slider, works the same way. Or you can just enter it by a number pad, or you can tap it. So all you can imagine to set the speed is available. You can set the time signature and subdivisions. There are several sounds assignable to the metronome. A visual mode is available, so it lights up. When you play the metronome, it lights up. And this is also movable. This is the only pop-up that does not close automatically. It's just the visual mode. It does not make sense to close it. You want to see something, so you have to close it manually. Next up, we have metronome settings. So you can set the sound. You can also set a custom tap channel. You have the tap button, but you can also assign it to a component like a rim or the head of another pad. This is possible. So you can set rim, head, or both, or none. All is possible. There was the metronome, and this is the performance mode. When you want to go into detail and really change the sounds of your kit or create new kits out of the sounds available, you have the kit editor. So now you go into each individual pad to change the sound. So you choose the pad you want to. Keep auto select off. You can hit a drum and select the pad automatically, but it will probably drive you crazy after a while. So keep it off, it's better to do manually, and then select the snare to start with. This is the currently active kit in performance mode. So you can also change it here. And then the sounds change that you have assigned to the other kits. To change a sound, very easy. Either you tap on the field, it opens the browser, or hold down on the component you want to check for 1 second. You also have this grouping function that's always in the whole interface, which basically selects the group of samples that belong together. So if you record a broadcaster snare, then you have a rim sound that was recorded from that snare, you have an acrostic sound from that snare, and you have the CS sample for the head. CS means center and side. So we have positional sensing available, that you have samples on the side with more ring and more focused samples in the center, right? And by default it picks the CS. You can also assign only the side samples to the full head. And you see it does not select everything. That's then customizing that individual component. You assign this by double tapping, and then the full sample set is assigned to the pad. So the rim should also have collector's maple rim, and the cross stick has the collector's cross stick. And if you want to change it individually, like a tambourine sound, and search percussion, just take an udo, whatever. Sorry, it's a little bit hard with a long hand. Okay, so then you have now assigned to the cross stick and udo drum. Next up, this is more like the remote section for the effects, and this is what is beyond you might know. So the developer is a sound engineer, so there's a whole recording studio inside this whole thing, and this is more or less the remote control center for the effects section. So we call it instances. So you have the same button in several areas of the interface. And this is an exact representation of a switch in the effects mode. We'll go to this in a second. So here you can dial in the global controls for effects. Then note that you have a compressor and equalizer for each pad and each channel. You can change this, for example, then you have a different setting. Save it. And you see this pad has still the linear setting. So this is absolutely customizable. Next is the effects mode. So the switches you have seen in the kit editor are here, located here. And also the volume dials are available here. Also you have effect sense. By default also grouping functions available, so you can move everything. It works the same as the regular mixer. And this way you can customize effects for each pad. The interesting part, does not look very interesting, is the first section. This is actually the section for the room samples we have taken in Funkhaus Studios in Berlin. So they are stored or managed under this section. It's a sample, you cut it the way as it is, so there's not much to adjust to it, right? The three following sections, or we call it modules. So this is a mode, the main thing, and this is a module inside, built like a rack. And the last three modules are more like generic ways of creating reverb, like plate or room, small, and so on. You can store all these, the middle section here, as a preset. And these guys, you don't see it on camera. There's a little like bar that separates this midsection. Everything that is inside this middle section is stored as a preset. And then you have to save the kit, because all these effects sense. If the effect is on or off in the kit, this will be all stored in the kit. And it will take the whole preset as a whole to store in the kit. So it's just a conceptual thing that might look very complicated, but makes sense in the end from a studio perspective, right? Yeah, and multi-effects, so some wah-wah, distortion, flanger, you name it. And the parameters you see change based on the effect. Then with the trigger settings, looks similar to the kit editor, but with the difference that it does not make sense to store trigger settings into a kit. It makes sense to store it to the drums you're using, to the very pad, to the hardware. So you can store, or you have pads available, you can also write your own. We have some default presets for our hardware here in drums now, but also for other companies we are able to write presets. It's compatible and works with most pads on the market. A neat little thing is you can adjust the velocity curve as you desire. You have to choose custom. Presets are not editable, but your custom curves are. So you can design the curve as you want to. Most of the times it does not make sense to go to concave. Convex is possible for most of the times, but if you really want to freak out, I don't know why, you can add another point and edit it with another point. Right? Yeah, and trigger monitor, what else? Trigger settings are available, so you can manually dial in what you want to. There will be a pad learn function for cymbals and drums to just, let's say, block out the highs and the lows, the range of the pad. General settings for the outputs, as you can see, you have also a separate equalizer and compressor. And the outs can be just managed in a different. Direct outs can be set as stereo or dual mono. So if you have a look in the back, you have eight individual outputs, and you can just bind them together to four stereo outputs or 8 dual mono outputs. I will leave this way so you can see the difference, because you have a routing matrix. And now the recording studio is into play. Let's say you're in a studio and you don't want to have the, I don't know if it makes sense, you don't want to have the kick drum on the monitor for whatever reason. Switch it off. So the monitor out, it's now blocked, does not go out there. More intuitive is probably with routing others, the click you don't want on the master out. You don't want on the monitor, but certainly on the headphones if you hang on. So you can send any input to any output in that way. You can save everything as a preset, so if you are in a Studio A, this is set up that way, that's what you need there. You save it, and when next time you're there, you can fire it up by just recalling the preset. So I told you before, I think this shows the mode in this matrix, whether the individual output is dual mono or stereo. So I've switched this to stereo, and it's simply shown in the matrix like a connection between the two dots. It tells you, okay, these two outputs are bound together to stereo. Again, also presets works always the same way. Equalizers we had, and of course for any output like monitor outs, you have this equalizer function. Also, you can include foot switches, so if you want to change something by triggering a pedal or something, you can do this. Also, it's possible if you have a keyboard player in the band and you can communicate via MIDI. So if he changes the sounds for the next song, you can also remote control the workstation to change your drum kit, for example, right? It's also possible. Yeah, there's the whole MIDI section, drum kit program, goes far into studio and more into depth. Then you have auto off for the displays or device. In the last module it says device, which is the UI elements, user interface you can change. We have an easy start screen, I'll show you real quick. If you press that red button, this is how it comes to you. It's very restricted. For the first contact, always good. So there's a metronome, there's just the kit. It's a simplified version of the performance mode. And you can switch this off. What I will do now, so now it boots in this performance mode. Wow, with general settings. You can set a timer when it shuts down automatically. For safety reasons, we have to do this, but it could be also very neat when you just want to go out or keep it on for whatever reason. You can set the brightness of the display, and also for the knobs on the side. You can turn it off completely. So this is all the UI stuff. There's a Wi-Fi function. You can connect to your local network to communicate with the GEWA Cloud. So you can download sounds from there, do your firmware updates, and I will show you when we come to the shop later on. Bluetooth is very nice. If you have your player with your smartphone or something, you can couple via Bluetooth and play the song from there. So you use the control of the other player, but it works very well just for if you don't have a stick available or you want to play to a YouTube video, whatever. So Bluetooth works very well in this case. Yeah, information, so it tells you basically what firmware we are using. This is not the final one, it's still not version 1.0, nevertheless. So that was general settings for global controls in the workstation. We have the tool section. It has an Onstage mode, PDF reader. Sorry, it has an auto timeout. Import tool and the shop. Let's start with the shop. So when you're connected via Wi-Fi, you have to do in general settings. Then you can simply connect. So it says not connected. We don't have Wi-Fi at the booth, so I can't show you the shop. Then you hit connect. It tries. Does not work. But then you have all the firmware updates available in the shop and other information we want to give you. So you don't have to go into the internet on a website or something. Is there a new firmware update? This is not working. You can check in your module right away. Sounds will be then also there. So to select from, there are more samples than we ship, and they will all be recorded in all these 100 layers per zone. So per zone means positional sensing. Each zone on the pad from center to the side will have its own 100 layers of velocity volume available. And you can't do this at home, so this requires then more involved tools to do that. These sounds will be available in the shop. Import tools, if you have your own WAV files, if you have a sound like a triangle you like, something, import it. And you will have it available then also in the kit editor. It says import. I have no file here, but then it shows you what you've imported, and you can also assign it alternatively to what the module will ship with, or the workstation, sorry. PDF reader. So if you want to do chart reading, it is possible. I have no USB. So it should read automatically. You have the PDF filter, so this for the final version should be a default. Now you're in PDF reader, you fire up the browser and it should select only PDFs, of course. And then you can have it on the screen. You can browse through the pages. So it's just like on a regular PC, Mac, whatever. All functions like you can turn it around, pan, zoom, all you would expect is available. And then we have the Onstage mode. The Onstage mode is really good for if you have sets during the evening, you're changing the sounds for different songs. And you don't want to jump into performance mode and select the kit manually. You need the metronome for that song to count in maybe at a different speed. And so on. So to avoid adjusting this between the songs, you can simply call up if you have a preset. There's always sets of 8. We could do more, but then the buttons get smaller, and on stage you want to have a large surface to tap on. So you can edit a number of, then it turns red, and it tells you what you can include to the set. So drum kit, select that one. We can do this right now, so it's a new one. Metronome maybe 120 for example, or 20. Let's keep it at 20. Very slow. And then if you need some backing tracks to it, and select it from your USB stick. Then you save it. And then when you go back to this preset, then you have your sets once available. So you can program always sheets of 8. If you need more, just start a new preset. Yeah, and that's basically the quick overview. So maybe a little comment on the sounds. The sounds we have taken A, positional sensing, so there's one dimension more than you're usually used to, and B, the samples have the length they have to. Let's say a write symbol rings for a certain amount of time. Then the sample is cut off not after 10 seconds. We let it ring till you can't hear it anymore. So this beefs up the library, but in the end it results in a natural sound. You want to hear a long ringing bell or something, you want to hear it for a long time. Perfect. There's my water, and thank you very much.